here for another edition of Fantasy Football.
Reality.
That's right. Now, listen, guys, it's week 9. If your teams are on the bottom half, you got to start making trades, man. You got to move some pieces to make something happen. And you know what you got, you know what you need, and you know what the thing about trades is. Someone's always trying to fuck somebody else.
Right.
I always try to come with value. I'm always looking for equal value. And sometimes maybe I fuck myself that way, but I just don't. And I hate it when there's so many great memes out there of how someone sends you a shitty trade and it really makes you wonder how stupid they think you are.
You are. Yeah. Yeah, man.
So
I agree with you on that 100%. This is the time to do it. I think when trade deadlines end in about 2 weeks.
2 weeks. I think in about 2 weeks. Mid-November for most leagues is about when the trade deadline hits.
So if you're close, or if you're missing one piece, or you just lost a piece, this really is the time. I like to start making moves. I like to say, okay, what do I need? And then I look at a person who's strong in what I have, but weak.
Totally.
What they, so I try to make it where I can hook them up.
I know, but I find that people just don't, people aren't willing trade partners anymore. It's strange. People don't, because it's tough when you make a trade and you wind up being the loser of the trade, and that isn't always apparent right away. And sometimes you wait 2 weeks and then you're like, oh my God, like the McLaurin trade. That is a fucking a giant spiked dildo up my ass.
Yeah.
Every fucking week. Because there was no chemistry. First of all, I've carried the guy for 2 seasons, nothing. Couldn't get it going with anybody. Then Jaden Daniels comes in and he looks pretty good, but there was nothing happening with him in those first 4 games. And Jordan Love had that injury and I needed the backup. And that was, I gave him a choice of 2 guys, Calvin Ridley and McLaurin, which at the time were basically the same to me. Yeah. And he took McLaurin and I was like, fine. And then he turned into the greatest wide receiver in the National.
Hey, at least Calvin Ridley is now a thing.
Yeah, exactly. At least Calvin Ridley is now a thing, and I'm very excited about that. I'm like, thank you, fantasy football gods. I needed that to happen because I was like, this is bullshit. So, although now with Jordan Love being banged up again, I'm like, I'm glad I've got Malik Willis because he gets out there and he scores, he runs. He's one of those.
You ever think you would say those words?
No.
Yeah.
Well, no, kind of yes, because I always remembered the 2 Malik Willises, the one that was in that preseason game where everyone thought he was taking over forever, and then the guy that ate a dick when he played in actual games, but they only gave him like 2 games, and then they yanked him again anyway.
True.
So, so I always knew maybe there was a chance that guy could show back up, and it seems to be in the right situation for that to happen there in Green Bay.
He does. They've got good running backs there. That always helps.
Yes, absolutely. And strong wide receiver. I mean, just a great organization and great coaching and great scheme.
And great defense. They've got that whole team is solid.
It is. It's a solid team that really has a chance to make a run if Jordan Love can stay healthy. But let's talk about the big storyline this week, which of course, for us, and it's funny the way in your leagues, it's so important. And then to anyone not in your leagues, it is the least important thing in the universe. But for us, in our league of record, I took my first loss, and so you and I flip-flopped on points, and now
that was going to be my headline, is that there's a new team in first place.
That's right. Right.
This guy.
Right. But we also played each other head-to-head in our other league.
Yeah, but that's not what it... that's true.
And what happened... What happened in that one?
In that one, I scored the 3rd highest in the league and lost.
But you lost by not even a little bit though, like
less than 20. Less than 20.
20 points. It's pretty much 20 points. So we both. Wow. So I thought it was a real good 1-2 back and forth. I was like, thank God, because I knew you were going to be like, I'm hanging there, they had the points. And I was like, yeah, but I beat you straight up, face to face.
Yeah, because last week you were saying, they don't count, the points don't count. And I'm like, well,
I did. No, I would never say that. I know that on an even record, it's about the points. And the reality is I outcoached myself. If I would have just stuck with my team, but I gambled at 3 positions and lost all 3 gambles. And that was stupid. I never should have done that. I got cocky and I fucked myself in the ass. And that's what happens sometimes. Sometimes you just fuck with your own formula for lack of anything better to do. And it bit me in the ass.
And in the headline here is, in the league of record, there is a new person in first place, and it is not Greg Wilson, but it is Scott Berman.
Right. That's right. And the other headline, the co-headline, is that Greg and Scott played each other head to head, and the winner, audio.
Yeah, we don't care about that league as much.
The big winner. I beat your face. I smack you down. You just happen to have more points than me. That's it. So.
Happened to.
And then, of course, the one real storyline is Dionte Johnson.
Yes. I am afraid for Zay Flowers.
Okay.
I'm afraid for Rashad Bateman.
Okay.
And I'm afraid for Dionte Johnson. I don't think this is good for any of them. I think it's good for the Ravens, but I don't think it's good for any of these guys. I just don't. I don't think it helps.
Couldn't disagree with you more, and I'll tell you why. I think it's spectacular for Zay Flowers. Here's why. This gives him an opportunity to work out the slot. He is clearly, we've seen, I mean, a lot of speed, a lot of talent, not a great downfield receiver. He's not a great wide out. He's not a great wide out. But you put him in the slot with his juke. Remember they called him the human joystick.
Okay.
Because his ability to run in the open field is fucking phenomenal. And what I'm saying is now you get him in the slot. Obviously not every play, but you put Rashad Bateman out wide, you put Dionte Johnson out wide, and guess what? Zay Flowers is going to eat your lunch in the middle, baby. It's going to be one of those catch for 5, run for 20. I think this is fantastic.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I say we'll look, 3-4 weeks from now, and we'll see.
I love it. Every time this comes up, it looks like I have giant yellow nipples.
It does. It makes me want to get in there.
Hey, big spender. Let's hope AI chooses that for one of our clips.
How could it not?
How could it not?
There's also 2 other major storylines, right? We've got Stephon Diggs out for the season.
Yeah, that was brutal. That really hurts one of
my. I think it hurts, the Texans a lot, and what sucks is it hurts him personally because he was only on a 1-year deal.
He was on a proven contract,
right? Yep. Yeah, so I feel bad for him, and he's also 31. He's getting up there. He was already sort of the number 2 behind Nico. Even though Nico's hurt, he still didn't come out and shine like I thought he would. I thought like he would really come up a lot, and he was okay, but he's not, he already looks like he'd lost a step before he actually.
Agreed. And even when Nico went out, we expected a substantial uptick for Diggs, which happened 1 game, and that was it.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, we really didn't see that uptick we were expecting to see, and we were like, okay, so is it Diggs or is it the chemistry?
Yeah.
And now
I thought maybe Tank Dell, but then he had a great game that first game, and then a 0.0 the next game.
Yeah. So it's like what's going to, how does this affect Joe Mixon, who's been having a resurgent year?
My God, does he look so good?
He does, but they're going to stack the box. They're going to be like, fine, throw it. Throw it to who? Who are you going to throw it to?
They're going to throw it to Joe, is what they're going to do, because he can do that. People don't think of him that way, but he actually has very good hands. He's used it before. He'll use it again. They will use him that way if they're smart. I think Joe is going to be fine.
I think and maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I don't know. I just know it's going to get a lot harder for him now. That's all I know. It's going to get a lot harder because they really don't have anyone else to key on except for him.
So, well, I mean, my God, the games that he's played, he's never finished as less than RB5 overall. I don't know if he can keep it up because he's not a spring chicken anymore, but he's still just absolutely crushing it. And it seems like something has to give. And now that everybody's gone, but remember, week 10, Nico will be back. That's only one more week from now, and that'll open everything back up for him. I think it's only this week alone. I would be a little,
well,
a little
I
more
wish
nervous.
you say that with the optimism of someone that thinks that Nico Collins is going to come back for the remainder of the season. But we've seen this movie before with Nico where he comes in. It's the return of Nico closing in 2 weeks. I mean,
I hope not.
I'm sorry. He's just one of those guys. And once the injuries start, he doesn't stay on the field for long, but let's
put that
hope
out
this.
there. Don't you?
Let's just hope this season's a different story. I mean, I know Joe Mixon needs it, but without it, I think the road just got a lot steeper incline for everyone on the Texans offense.
Oh, well, there was
also one of the reasons I like the Jets defense on Thursday night. We'll get to that.
There's also one other major headline, and it was one that I broke last week, but it wasn't official then. But Joe Flacco is now the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts moving forward. It's not just this week. He did say this is not temporary.
Right. They said for the rest of the season.
They said moving forward. Moving forward, he is our starting quarterback. You know what? And it's the best thing you could do for Richardson. The guy is not ready. He may never be ready, but he certainly isn't ready. And, I think that they're 4-4 or something. Like, oddly, they found ways. Well, I shouldn't say oddly. It was mostly whenever Joe was in. They found a way to win. And it helps everybody on that team. I'm super excited, about one of my waiver wire wins, if we can get into that, was Josh Downs. That guy is really special when he's got a good quarterback.
Yeah.
And he was pretty good even with Richardson. But he's a guy that people, I think they underestimate a little bit just because he's been.
Listen, the guy I'm interested to see if his stock goes up is Adonai Mitchell. We've been waiting on him to get more involved. He's had one game, I think, where he kind of had an impact, and he's a huge talent that was completely untapped through this entire process. But the interesting thing about it, you can say that he's the quarterback for the rest of the season. The defenses you face are going to determine whether or not.
I mean, they're barring injury
for the rest of the season.
Yes, barring injury.
You think this is the last we've seen of Anthony Richardson? It's because there's a long way to go. There's still 8 more games to play here. 9 more games to play here.
Yeah, we're halfway.
So I know halfway is such a heartbreaker, and it goes so fast. But with that much left to play, I just, don't be surprised if we see Anthony Richardson again, and hopefully next time he's a better steward of the opportunities that he is receiving.
I sure hope so. He can't get worse.
I don't think so. I think he's going to go kick rocks. That's what I think. I just don't know that he's got the focus. I don't know that he's going to spend his time working on his craft and getting ready for his opportunity. I mean, if the guy's willing to take himself out of the game for a rest,
a play, so messed up, dude.
It's crazy. Do you really think he's going to be off, on his own, preparing himself for his next? When he gets no, he's going to be over there sitting around going, "I'm not playing the rest of the season." Okay, yeah. That's what I imagine. I hope I'm wrong. Anthony Richardson, prove Mario wrong. Prove me wrong. Something you got. I want to take. Huh?
Yeah, we would all like to see you be great because when you are, it's awesome and fun and exciting. But dude, you're not great. So get great. Go get great. Go figure it out. I've seen Lamar Jackson. I've seen Lamar Jackson run 75 yards on a play and then immediately play the next snap.
Exactly.
So try starting with playing all the snaps.
I have never in my life seen a quarterback take himself
out because I needed a breather. I think it was like 3rd down. I mean, it was like a big anyway, whatever. He's just not serious. I think he's been handed everything.
Possibly.
Any waiver wire wins? I'm assuming you got somebody.
Listen, the one I admire is yours picking up Cedric Tillman for free. Every other league, he cost everybody all their fab money, and somehow nobody picked him up in our league. Now, I saw him there. I figured the bids were going to be high, I didn't really have room for him on my roster. I would have had to drop either Xavier Worthy or someone else that I was like, nah, I like those guys.
See, better. I would have done that. I would have dropped Worthy for Tillman.
Nah. I again, because it's the Browns. It's just I'd rather have a slice of the Chiefs going forward. And I think that, again, now with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins, it's going to continue to open them up. I think down the stretch, because again, these guys aren't starting for me right now. I think down the stretch, I still like my and I wouldn't mind if you remember the Tyreek Hill, his arc. His first season, he was mostly special teams. He was not producing much as a receiver. And then it was that second season where he became the star. And so, if anything, I'm holding on to Worthy to make him my keeper, because I believe even if it doesn't hit this season, it'll hit next season.
Okay, well then that makes a lot more sense. If that was went into your calculation,
absolutely,
then that makes a lot.
That's really one of the things I'm looking at with Worthy is just holding. Same with Rashee Rice last year. He began to get good at the end of the season, the last 3 games, and then this season started out electric. The chemistry was there, and I'm expecting the exact same thing out of Worthy. He is my keeper across the board. So,
wow,
that's what I'm expecting anyway. My big waiver wire wins, I liked picking up the Bills defense. I know they're playing Miami, but Miami looked really not good against Arizona last week. I think they're still playing a little timid. They're not finding it just yet. I mean, the receivers have yet to really take off. It is not the Miami of this season is not the Miami of last season. Just like the Cowboys of this season are not the Cowboys of last season. I think they're both going through this kind of like, what the fuck happened here? We were so good at this last year. And so.
Well, you know what it was with Miami, for God's sake. They lost their quarterback right away.
I know, but he's back. And as I thought he was going to come back extraordinarily, ready to go. And he didn't seem, and don't get me wrong, I still have faith in him. I think he'll be good. But then now you're talking about Miami going to Buffalo, out in the weather.
Even though it's never done good in cold weather, ever.
They've never done good outdoors in Buffalo. I love the Buffalo defense this week against them. And really, this is Buffalo's one of those defenses you can pretty much hold on to. I mean, if you're going to play one defense, they're in the top 3. So picking them up for a song, I think I paid $3 for them. Like, I think it's great. You got to love having them in the AFC East, where they get the Jets and New England, who now has
their home games. Their home games are such a huge advantage because of the weather.
Huge, because of the cold, and we're heading into.
Yeah, they're used to it.
And their defense has really stepped back up. Boy, people thought they were going to fall apart, and they did not fold.
I mean, down to the cleats that they wear. Like, they know the
right cleats. Yes.
And that they'll get people to fall, and those are a lot of sacks that just they're gifts. It is a huge difference. It's a huge advantage, and they're good anyway. They're good on any turf, but you do them at home now that it's starting October, November, December. This is when it starts.
This is when you grab them. This is when you pick them up. This is when you play them.
Yep.
So I grabbed them, and I feel very, very good about that. What other ones do you have?
That was it. I just had Tillman and Downs. Those 2 I was excited. I couldn't believe that Tillman was not playing.
I couldn't believe it either. When I saw that you picked him up at 1:00 in the morning, I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was very shocked. I was shocked he was still
I was like, wow. And I dropped, I dropped Keenan Allen for him.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that may come back to haunt me. But I'm looking.
Yeah, because I still it's funny if we could talk about Chicago 1 second, because I was very hot on them going into this. It's something I really didn't think about. When your team is hot going into a bye week, you can only cool off. You can't stay hot. You just can't. And when you're working with a lot of rookies and young guys, and you can't. There's nowhere to go up. So you can only cool off. When you're a team that's struggling just to get to the bye, so you can get some players back and get healthy again, then you can come out and be better than you were before. But when you go into a bye week hot, there's really nowhere to go but down. And I think we saw that. I think it was a big wake-up call for Chicago. And I think it's still with that defense, I really like them to have a great bounce back.
Look, they lost by a miracle on the last play. It was, I mean, it's going to be one of those plays that I'll never forget, quite honestly.
Oh, listen.
It was up there with one of the greatest moments. And it wasn't, crazy, but it was. I mean, it was shocking. It took 14 seconds for him to get everybody down there and set and huck that ball. And but first of all, everybody knows, dude, you and I, we're not athletes, but we know in that situation, you bat the ball down.
Yeah.
You punch it
you don't
away.
Tip it up.
You don't tip it up.
Well, and the other thing was, where was the hands unit during this? Normally on this, they send out receivers, tight ends, big people who can catch. Anybody tall.
Exactly.
Yep. And for some reason, they put out their corners and their safeties back there who are undersized and don't catch. And so he did the thing where he tried to bat it, but instead he just tipped it straight up in the air.
And this also makes it that much more delicious that it happened. Was the guy who did that was the same guy that was taunting the audience.
Yeah. Wasn't even facing the play when the ball was hyped.
When the ball was in the air, he was like, oh, and then he ran over and went and snatched it up.
And listen, I gotta give some of the blame also to the offensive line. I know it's the end of the game. I know you're thinking, it's a Hail Mary. He's like, but they quit. And they let him find a nice, comfortable place to launch that ball. He got to set his feet, crank it, and put it right where he wanted to. Because they chased him for a second, and then they just stopped. They just stopped. And we're just standing there watching him throw it. And nobody's blaming those guys, but I think they have a bit of blame to take in this too.
Agreed, but don't you think it's weird that this happens a lot, where they just put everybody back? Everybody's back, and they don't really rush. And I'm like, dude, if he needs 14 seconds for people to run down there and you should be rushing the guy. I understand.
Somebody should be don't let him get comfortable and throw the ball.
Right.
Make something happen. Make him uncomfortable. Which I get it. It's the last play. I don't play football. I imagine they're so tired at that point. 14 seconds is a very long time, and he just outran these big fat guys. But they needed to keep pursuing him because he just got over like, all right, great now, and I mean,
Greg, if you're not going to pursue him, then why did they let Noah Brown stand behind everybody alone? Somebody should have been next to him. And that way, as soon as the ball is tipped, you can just drill him. As soon as the ball is tipped, you're allowed to tackle a guy. There's no such thing as pass interference once the ball is tipped.
No, that's right.
So why was he just back there camping out by himself, just waiting? I mean,
they didn't. They thought they had won the game. They thought this is a play that never works. Don't worry about it. They didn't even send in the hands. There's a lot of blame besides just that one guy to go around in the breakdown of that play.
Right.
They were just too high on their comeback win. That's it. They were too high on it.
It was incredible.
They thought the game was over. They thought the game was over. They were fucking taking big. They were fist pumping, and meanwhile they just and it's
over. So very Chicago.
So very Chicago.
So what are we gonna do, my friend? What are we going to do about CJ Stroud?
Oh, boy, that is a good one.
I don't know.
And at this point, he's just a bench stash. You can't start him. He's got and he hasn't been good this season anyway.
No, 2 good games.
And the funny thing is, he was so cocky in the offseason. When he was on those podcasts with Micah Parsons and talking about how delusional the Cowboys were and all this, he was so sure that he was the second coming. And I believe we even talked about this week 1 about the sophomore slump and how we've seen that before. And I was wondering out loud but when you looked at what they've done with Joe Mixon and Stephon Diggs, you were like, there's no way he takes a step backward. You drafted him I drafted him just to screw another guy in my league so he wouldn't have him. And now he's just a bench stash at best.
Yeah, man. But at least, I don't know. I don't know what's worse. Like, Was it drafting him or drafting Patrick Mahomes? Clearly Anthony Richardson was the worst, but these are all guys that were way up high in the draft.
Totally. Yes.
But CJ Stroud, I mean, you got some usable weeks out of him. Patrick Mahomes really has not been startable up until, I believe, this week he's going to be.
I was going to say, he's coming back. He's starting to come back. And the more DeAndre Hopkins gets involved, Andy Reid was like, we're going to get him the ball. And he isn't one of those guys that does coach speak. He tells you what he's going to do, and then true. Fucking does it to you.
Yep. When he says he's going to go get a cheeseburger, that man goes and gets a cheeseburger.
Exactly. What are we going to do about Amari Cooper?
We're going to wait. We're going to wait. We're going to bench and wait. He needs to acclimate. He'll be okay. He's Amari Cooper. He's great. He will be great. We're going to wait.
I mean, 17 points in the first one, which was just beginner's luck, obviously.
Right.
And then 1 point in week 2 in his second.
I wish it was 1 point. It was not. It was 0.8 points. Catch.
I guess it depends. On how they score in the different leagues. Because mine was
if it's a half PPR, points. He got 0.8. One catch for 3 yards. I think mine's a
full point. Yeah, full point was 1.6. Yeah, so it was pretty brutal. And now you're like, is he startable? And your answer is no.
Not yet. He will be. And he'll catch on quick, too, because that's another thing about Amari.
I'm a big believer in third time's the charm.
You're not.
But it's a gamble. Oh, I am.
Oh, you are a big believer.
I'm a big believer in it. Especially when you have a competent receiver like Amari Cooper. I don't know.
An extremely talented quarterback like Josh.
Yes. Now, that doesn't put him on the must-start list. I'm not so eager to bench him this week the way you are.
He's got a bad matchup this week. I know it doesn't seem like it. People don't
No, he does. Absolutely. No, he sure
Miami
does.
Actually is tough. Their defense is good. But it's true. I mean,
it's a division game too. I mean, that's
another big deal.
But if it's one thing they've been saying about Miami is that they're a bunch of softies. I mean, look what they let Arizona do to them last week. So
it was weird.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm on the fence. What are we gonna do about Jalen Waddle? I mean,
we're gonna start him up, and we're gonna start him with confidence, man. Because first of all, I think that Tyreek Hill something is wrong with his foot. I don't think that's
so too.
A joke. I think that's true. Now he's still great and he'll still be involved, but Waddle I think Waddle's going to have a really nice game because I think they're still going to be focusing on Hill, and I think Waddle, if anything, I'd go out and try to trade for Waddle now while his value is still low because he's about to elevate, in my opinion. I think he's going to, this week will be the beginning of a trajectory that goes up. That's what I think.
I like it. I hope so. Your lips to God's ear.
Right. Now, what are we going to do about Jared Goff? You know, they're scoring 52 points, but it isn't him.
It's not.
He's getting 15 fantasy points when their team scores 52 points. And that is frustrating. And it hurts Amon-Ra because their running game is so fucking good.
Phenomenal.
And it is so, the knuckles and Sonic they know. Well, but I should have been Knuckles.
But they seem to be the only ones that really know how to run a balanced run attack. It's like other guys have two guys, but they still make it the one guy and then, get in there and really like Miami's still doing that with Achane and Mostert. They're still, and
Pittsburgh is starting.
I called it on TikTok. Someone goes, Achane, I hope Achane gets all the touchdowns. I go, Mostert's going to come in, rush 4 times for 30 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I saw that. I saw that comment. Yeah. I did see that.
And now look, and the guy was like, what are you, a wizard?
A wizard? Yeah.
I called it. I knew it. It just felt like it, and I could feel it. Just like the Thursday night that I knew that Mooney was going to go off. I just had that vibe. I was like, here's what's going to happen. I just know it, and it did.
Now that's a note for anybody who happens to be watching this is, hit us up on TikTok. We will reply. We'll answer your questions. If you've got a specific question, we'll do it.
And people were throwing out lineup questions. I love it. People were like Andrews or the one from Chicago.
Komet.
Yeah, Komet. And I'm like, really, it's a coin toss. You never know which one of those two is going to have the week. But just know that whichever one you choose, you're going to be wrong.
So he must have chose Komet.
He must have.
Because, I mean, or maybe he chose both. I don't think either one did great.
They didn't have great weeks. Either one had a pretty big week, so it's fine. It was really,
so
it really was a convoy.
What do you do with Goff? Seriously, though, because I don't, what I had, and I think I am not alone. I think there's a lot of people who have my exact situation. This was a year I said, I honestly don't care about quarterback. I will wait till the end of the draft. And I went and grabbed Tua and Goff and was at like 9 and 10, right?
And you felt like a genius.
And I did feel like a genius. And then it instantly fell apart, with Tua. So then we all had to scramble. But like then, I even had to drop him to make room for all the other people that were injured. But then I went back and got him in several leagues, Tua. But I still have Goff. It's like every other week I can start him. And, he has had a couple of just incredible games. But it seems like they found a formula where, Goff, first of all, he doesn't rush. He has zero running,
he's not running the ball. Yeah.
Upside.
If he is, it's because it's wide open in front of him and he's going to run as far as he needs to and slide.
And slide. He's not even going to run as far as he needs to. He's going to run some and slide. It's like he'll run a little and slide. He's smart. That's why he's going to stay in the game until he's 40. Unlike other people who don't do that. Jaden Daniels and Anthony Richardson. Not going to mention any names. But, so I just don't know.
Except for those two, I don't remember.
Except for those two names I just mentioned. I just don't know. I really don't know what to do. It's hard to roster this guy. I never know what I'm going to do. And if I had a solid backup, I think that would help, but I don't have that. So then I got to start thinking about streamers, and then it's really been hard.
Honestly, I feel like either you drafted Lamar or you didn't.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that as someone who every time I refute, and no one was more on the hype train for Baltimore this year than me. I was predicting an undefeated season, the masterpiece from Derrick Henry, the opening of it up for Zay Flowers. No one was a bigger believer in me, yet I have been burned by this motherfucker so many times that I was like, I don't care. I'm not drafting him. I didn't grab one share across any league. And let's be honest, I mean, who else? Jalen Hurts just now started producing at the levels you've been expecting. Right. Jane Daniels was an accident. It was a revelation. Caleb Williams is finally coming online and getting good. He had the 2 good games, now and then. So without these guys, I think everybody is in this boat of disappointment. It's a factory of sadness.
It's all Cleveland. Wherever you go, it's all
Cleveland.
It's Lamar or Cleveland.
I mean, because we started out thinking that, Sam Darnold was having this huge year and Derek Carr was having when Patrick Mahomes is like droppable, which is what he'd become, and now he's starting to climb, which is why you never drop big names like that. I'm such a fool, and I know that lesson, and I fucking did it like an asshole.
No, it's so easy. It's so easy to understand, and it's so hard to implement. When you're sitting there and you see the name and you're like, you can't trade that name. It's got no trade value.
You're right. No trade value. And you have to get somebody else that's going to produce.
Things are happening.
And so you have no choice but you got to make a call. Because I have one team where I'm carrying 3 quarterbacks right now. They say if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none.
You don't have any.
What does it say when you have 3? I'm just playing cards like which one of you is going to go off this week.
And that's and you're going to pick one, and one of the other ones are going to go, and then it just drives you crazy.
And you're playing this merry-go-round on your own fucking team.
Yeah, it's a recipe for anxiety and stress. That is what it is.
And I think this is where most fantasy footballers are at this season in general with their quarterback situation.
Yeah, I think that if you were smart and you said, you know what, Baker's looking pretty good, and you grabbed him. Now you may have dropped him because I did after he lost everybody. I was like, well, that's the end of Baker. Turns out it's not. It's not the end of Baker. He's still throwing over.
And if you recall, in the league where I dropped Mahomes, it was to keep Baker.
You did the right thing.
I was like, listen, even though Baker's lost his receivers, I know I can count on him to keep slinging it. And he did. He turned out 26 points.
His running has been great. Has been such a boon for fantasy. Well, you know what? I think that this is the week that, and I'm going to take the words out of your mouth. You said it every week. I'm going to say it this week. This is the week that the Mahomes magic comes back. We're going to see it this week. This is going to be the one. Tampa Bay's defense is,
yeah.
And Kelsey is starting to get back in the mix. And I think maybe your boy Worthy could start to. He's going to start
seeing, He just needed a little.
Halfway point of the season is when the rookies start to elevate. Is this halfway point? That's why it's hard. You know, you were always so excited to draft the rookies, because all the hype and all the shit. But you forget every year that it takes them about a half a season to get used to the NFL, or sometimes a full season. And it's the next year that they're great. But, I think that with Worthy, and the team that he's on and their defense is just freaking incredible. I mean, it's probably the best defense, I would say, right now.
And I've got a lot of slices of Kareem Hunt, and they are using him how I had hoped. I didn't think they would, but they are using him as that RB1 that you were hoping. Now, he takes a lot of punishment per game. I'm always like, maybe not so much Carson, maybe a little more Carson Steele. Put in a little more Carson Steele.
He doles out a lot of punishment. He's like Henry.
He is, and that's why I love him. And again, I like slices of winner. They're and a lot of it has to do with the defense and with Kareem Hunt running like a fucking bull out of the gate. I love it.
It is amazing. Are you afraid of Pacheco coming back?
No, not at all.
So you don't think that's gonna take Kareem Hunt's value and lower it like dramatically?
No, no, because I'm worried about, with the injury that he had, I don't see him coming back as the Pacheco we remember.
I guess there's no reason to rush him back when you got Kareem doing so good.
Exactly.
You're probably
if anything else, it turns it into more of a Montgomery Gibbs situation, which I'll be fine with that too.
Yeah. Well, what do you think this is the week for?
This is the week that Jamarr Chase is going to be the number one. I just think they're in a great spot versus Las Vegas. They're at home. They're getting like the Raiders out in the air.
We are so opposite.
I think Jamarr Chase goes off this week. I think he has a great week.
The only thing that Vegas can do well is guard wide receivers. That's their only good. That's the only thing they do well. And if T. Higgins is hurt, they're all going to be all over Jamarr Chase. So I've got him as a must sit.
Oh, I got it. I think he's going to be number one.
Or a beware or something. This is interesting. I like it. We've got a lot of opposite ends on this one. We're going to find out within the next couple of days here. I'm excited to see how this shakes out.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is the week that Devon Achane is the RB number one.
Ooh.
And the reason is because the Bills running defense is like the worst. And you saw that Achane is getting like 7-8 targets under Tua. Not just the running. It really opened up everything. I mean, Achane had, I think, 29 fantasy points last week. Pretty impressive. I thought that was all going to go to Tyreek Hill and Waddle.
But all with Achane.
Yeah. So I think this week you'll see him as RB number one.
Find that hard to believe, but okay.
The week.
In fact, if we could rewind the tape, this is the week Dionte Johnson scores his first touchdown for the Ravens. 3 receptions, 1 touchdown for 56 yards.
Wow.
Well, that's all I have for This Is the Week, because the rest of the other ones is Don't Be Surprised. So
okay, I've got a good one. I think for This Is the Week.
Okay.
It's bold. This is the week that AJ Brown and Devontae Smith go over 100 yards.
I can go with that. Can I tell you my other choice for number one was AJ Brown? AJ Brown was my other top. I was looking at AJ Brown. And I'm looking at Jamarr
Jackson
Chase.
and Jacksonville and Vegas. Yeah, and you're like
exactly. Exactly. They're both they're great matchups. I think good. And really, it was about getting Las Vegas up there out into the weather. I think they're gonna I think they're gonna crumble. I mean, they're a desert team that plays indoors. You're gonna get them out in the weather, which, by the way, the weather in Cincinnati is not supposed to be very good. So It should be a lot colder. Should be a little rainy.
It's gonna be cold in Ohio.
Can you believe it? It's going to be cold.
What?
And this is actually going to play into a couple of things that I say today. But it's supposed to be cold and it's potentially rainy, and I think those things are very, very bad for indoor desert teams. So I like that's why I went with Jamarr over AJ. But AJ was my number 2 pick for that slot.
I'm not saying he'll be number 1, but I think that both Brown and Smith are going to have over 100 yards in the same game. In the same game,
love it.
It's not normal. That doesn't happen a lot. But I'm going to go ahead and say this is the week.
Nice, I like it. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Well, I got to tell you, don't be surprised if the Jets get that dub they've been looking for against the Texans, who are just they're a fucking mash unit over there, man. Like, and don't forget, this Jets defense can be great. Hassan Reddick just rejoined the team. So, or just joined the team, not even rejoined. He'd never been there. Now he's finally there, and he's on the field. He's going to be getting back up to speed a little bit more. They still have Sauce Gardner. They still have that other huge pass rusher. I don't be surprised.
So you stole that right out of my first. That's my number 1. I go ahead and cross that right off my list. I have the exact same thing for the exact same reasons.
There you go. Boom.
So that's also going to be just, a little foreshadowing. I would say roll the dice on that one too when it comes to the betting.
I totally have it as a roll the dice.
Let's do it.
-2. Take the Jets. Thursday night, short week, very little time to acclimate anybody new. It's very bad for the Texans.
Yeah, roll the dice on that one and then use it to spend it on our locks. For the Sunday.
And they are on in New York. They're going to be outdoors in New York.
Yeah, so we already know that CJ Stroud has struggled already, no matter what, right? Like he's had a rough season. And then when he's away, he's always not been great. Even when he was being great, he still struggles on the road. And then against a defense as good as that, and with nobody, they're gonna take Tank Dell out because people are like, oh, Tank Dell, this is the week that he's gonna go crazy. It's not. I don't think it's possible.
Dude, he's gonna have Sauce Gardner all over him.
And Sauce will have help if he needs it. It's not just going to be him. It doesn't have.
And they're going to be bringing tremendous pressure.
Exactly. This is going to be. Don't be surprised at all.
Don't be surprised at all.
We told you. Don't be surprised.
And can I tell you, the Jets -2? I moved them from a lot
to a roll the
dice. Because my gut was saying, this is a lock. This is a fucking lock. But I was like,
and then you said, wait, I can't lock the Jets. Yeah, you can't lock the Jets. That's ridiculous. Don't be surprised if the Broncos beat the Ravens.
I would not be surprised.
Nice.
Just because the Denver defense is so great, their offense is becoming highly operational. I mean, I do have a must-sit coming out of that game, but I won't be horribly. I will be surprised, but not horribly surprised.
Right. And don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. Oh, if Miami beats Buffalo, don't be surprised if Miami beats Buffalo.
You know what? I could. You know what? All right. Well, I will be surprised.
Who do you got as far as starts? I got 2 of these.
Starts. Go ahead. I have my blanket starts to begin with, and I'm just going to roll through them really quickly. And remember, these are just everybody that's fantasy relevant. I'm not saying you can play anybody on them, but all the players, and we start off, of course, number one with the bullet, Philly versus Jacksonville. You can fill in that blank with anybody versus Jacksonville, but Philly in particular, I think you can absolutely you can start him up, especially if Goddard plays. I think you can fire him up even. Atlanta versus Dallas, because Dallas is just a shit show right now.
We're getting Deron Bland back.
I know we are, but he might play. He needs to warm up, get into football shape. I'm not afraid of Deron Bland just yet. I think it's a great situation for Atlanta. Minnesota versus Indianapolis, and I like all the performers on the Bills versus Miami. I think these are some nice blanket start. We're talking about Cook, James Cook, Coleman, and
but
even
not Cooper.
No, I think you do start Amari Cooper because, as I said earlier, third time is the charm.
All right, we'll see. I mean, that's some incredible analytics there. But I don't know.
Hey, I've never professed to be an analytics guy. I just got all these rings on my fingers and all these trophies on my shelf.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I got a couple of quarterbacks that you must start. And I'm going to say you must start Mahomes this week. I know it's been hard. It's been hard to do it, but you got to start him this week. This is where it comes back into play. Tampa Bay has been reeling on defense. It's going to be, I think, a pretty high-scoring game. And, I think D-Hop starts to get a little more involved. I think it's going to be good. The only thing that would really help Mahomes, one thing that would really help him a lot is if they would give Kareem Hunt some screens. That would really help. That would really help. And Bo Nix is a must start versus Baltimore. We just saw what Jameis Winston did.
And I've actually got him on a sleeper on a sleeper flyer actually for the same because you could throw on Baltimore.
Yeah.
For me, do you have any other must start quarterbacks?
I got two of each.
Okay. So for my must starts are Caleb versus Arizona in a big time bounce back game.
Yep.
Cousins versus Dallas for the obvious reasons.
Sad.
Yeah. Stafford versus Seattle. This defense doesn't seem to be the Seattle defense is not the defense of old. They've been, and they're not even that great at home anymore. So, and with the wide receiver package that seems to be back in play, I think you got to fire up Stafford and Joe Burrow versus Las Vegas. Again, getting them out there in the weather, outside, at home, needing wins. This is when Burrow starts to show up. This is when Burrow starts putting it together. And
Burrow's been very good all season, by the way.
But this is when he really starts to put it together in the second half of the season, when it's time to really start ramping up and making that run. This is when this is why Jamar Chase is the choice, because this is when Burrow gets good. Put that cart up to the Burrow and let it drag you across the finish line.
Okay, so I think you're half right. I think that you're right. Burrow is a good start. I don't think Chase is, because I think Burrow's going to throw it to the other Chase Brown, a must-start running back.
Okay.
This guy's going to be getting a lot of rushing yards through the air, so to speak. He's going to be getting those screens, those dump-offs. He's already basically taken over for Zach Moss. This is going to be a great game for a guy like Chase Brown. I would go ahead and play him as a must-start. And another one that, you had mentioned everybody versus the Cardinals. Or did you say that? Everybody versus the Cardinals? You say everybody?
Yeah. Versus Arizona. No, I didn't. That was not a blanket start, no.
Okay, well, I think Ramondre Stevenson is a must-start.
I like that.
This week, too. He's been struggling, but, we had a bit of a bounce-back game. They're throwing
absolutely had a bounce-back game last week. I loved it.
Yeah.
I started him on faith, boy. I was like, because he was up against a good defense, but I was like, I think he's going to show up, and he really did.
I started him because I had no other choice.
No, I had a couple other good choices, but it worked out pretty good.
Well done.
My must-start running backs.
That makes me want to drink.
Pollard versus New England. Again, the only bright spot in the Tennessee offense. This guy has just been so good. He's just, again, the yeoman's work. He just gets in there, goes to work, scores points. He's great. New England is second worst against the run. This is a great smash spot for Pollard. The guy I seem to be the only one who really likes, and I don't even own any shares of him, but I've been so.
No, you do, because you're trying to get rid of him right now.
No, not Pollard. The next guy I'm going to mention, Hubbard.
Oh.
Chuba Hubbard versus New Orleans. Again, this Jonathan Brooks, the ghost of this specter of Jonathan Brooks does not seem to be making itself into a reality.
Yeah, not until the ghost of Christmas future. I mean, because right now he's not present.
Yeah. I got him sitting there in the IR on one team, and it's like, I thought this guy was going to come out eventually. And New Orleans, obviously reeling, struggling, terrible offense. Defense is kind of quitting. I love Hubbard in this one. And Madison, Alexander Madison versus Cincy. He's the one I really like on that Las Vegas side of the ball. What Pollard is to Tennessee, Alexander Madison is to Las Vegas.
That's a great comp.
He fights when he runs with such vim and vigor. I gotta tell you, I admire it. I like watching it, and I think he's got a great matchup versus Cincy in the run game.
I love it. For wide receivers, I think that you must start. I've already said it, but the main guys in Philly. Start Devontae Smith, especially, because this is one. I mean, you're always going to start AJ Brown, but Devontae Smith has been a little hit or miss lately. But
he's hit or miss all the time.
You must start Devontae, and you must start Josh Downs with Joe Flacco. You must start Josh Downs. He will have 15 targets. I'm telling you, you've got to start them. You've got to start these two guys. They're both going to go off.
I like Ridley, another Tennessee guy, because he got 17 targets last week and caught 15 of them.
Yeah, we called it last week.
We called it. We added it, and and now he's graduated from sleeper to must start. Yeah, no, he was on my sleeper list last week. I was like, I mean, now with Hopkins gone, I mean, they got it there, and with Mason Rudolph throwing the ball, who's a competent thrower. I don't know if they're going to win the game, but I like Ridley as a must start. I also have Zay Flowers, who you disagree with, but I think with the Dionte Johnson decoy, I think if he just moves into the slot, if he starts catching passes in the slot, which is what I'm counting on,
who's going to be guarding him? Who's going to be guarding him?
Well, it's not going to be Patrick Surtain. He's going to be out wide on Dionte Johnson.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
He's going to be on Zay.
He's going to be out wide on Dionte Johnson, and it's going to open up Zay Flowers in the corner.
We'll see.
Of course, another guy, many, many times I've mentioned him, Shakir, for the Bills. He just is a consistent, I like him versus Miami. And I like all the Green Bay wide receivers versus Detroit. I think it's going to be,
if it's Malik?
It is counting on Jordan Love being the quarterback, which I think he's going to be. It does require a bit of a disclaimer there.
Yeah.
Because if it's with Malik Willis, you got to fade him. But I think if Jordan Love plays, again, we do this on Wednesday and things happen in the next couple of days that affect these things. So with an asterisk, if Jordan Love plays, I love the Green Bay wide receivers.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. For tight ends, I nailed it last week. I'm going to stick with it with Cade Otton versus the Chiefs. And I'm going to say both Pitts and Ferguson versus each other. Atlanta and Dallas, both tight ends, I think, I would start all of those guys. Both those guys. And of course, Cade Otton, which I'm assuming that you would start anyway, just because he had such an incredible game.
Yeah, at this point, exactly. At this point, you are probably starting him, although I do not think he's going to have a good game, although the Chiefs defense does seem susceptible to tight ends.
The only place they're susceptible.
Right, exactly. Much like the Baltimore Ravens, they're very susceptible to it. But at the same time, I just feel like lacking all the other weapons, I think the motherfucker's going to have to block. But For me, I agree with Ferguson. I have Ferguson versus Atlanta. I like your Pitts choice, but I think most people at this point are starting Pitts. I don't think you have a choice at this point.
I'm not used to that. Yeah,
I know, which is shocking, but much like the Kate Otten thing. I mean, you're probably already having plugged in there. And then the other guy I like, Adam Troutman, the Denver tight end. He's a must start. Listen, you saw him catch that pass last week with his fingertips in the end zone, and I'm like, impressive. Oh wow, he really can catch. I like him. And of course, the Ravens, just like we were just saying, much like the Chiefs, susceptible to the tight end. That's the one position they let get open. And I just like Troutman a lot this week. I think he's a must start.
Well, it looks like the Ravens are letting wide receivers go too, because Cedric Tillman went off. But, just for the record.
I think the Ravens were straight up looking past the Cleveland Browns.
Idiots.
So it's a lesson I think they will not learn.
That's why Denver's going to win this week. How about defenses? I mean, we already talked about obvious. I've got two. They're pretty obvious. The Saints versus Carolina. Anybody? I would just say anybody versus Carolina, right? Yeah. Anybody versus Carolina. Anybody versus Jags. But also, how about the Patriots? They've been hit or miss, but they're playing Tennessee, and we'll see. I mean, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Can I tell you, when it comes to these matchups where it's like not normally a good defense, but they've got a great matchup, I'm really leaning more towards great defenses with decent matchups. Mm-hmm. Like the Bills. That's why I went with Bills with Miami. I could have picked up Tennessee. That's why I also went with Cleveland. Because I think Cleveland is after the win they had against Baltimore, I think they have that. And again, they've got two amazing pass rushers there. I mean, they're at the top of the pressures list for Cleveland. Right. So I'm gravitating more towards good defenses in decent matchups over, not good defenses that just have a great matchup.
Perfect matchup.
Right. Which, so on paper, I mean, come on, everything. But you either have the personnel or you don't, So sometimes just mediocre cancels out mediocre. So
I think that's very good. I think that's very good advice, is to look at it. Forget about the chalk. Forget about all these, the green and the red and all these numbers and all the stuff. And this matchup. Exactly. It doesn't matter if they suck. They suck, no matter, even if the other people on the other side suck too.
Exactly. Look at their stat line. Look at it. If it's all 4s, 2s, 6s, 8s, you think this is the week they're going to turn up 26?
But the game log doesn't lie.
They don't have the personnel. You need a team that's getting you 12 to 10 a week. That's the kind of team that's going to go off for 17 to 20.
Yep. Well, so that's all I've got.
That's all I have too. Let's move on to the must sits.
Well, we already mentioned it. I mean, my first quarterback is you must sit C.J. Stroud. You must sit him. He cannot be started.
I absolutely have him on my must sit list as well.
And then Kyler Murray. You cannot start him either. You must sit Kyler Murray. I know that he does well because of his rushing.
The scrambling, yep.
Yeah, it really helps a lot. But this week, I just don't see it happening versus Chicago. I just don't.
Right, and that's another defense that I'm like, I know, but I like the matchup, and they're getting better. It's a great defense. I'd rather have Chicago versus Arizona over Tennessee versus New England.
Yes.
In defenses.
Right.
For me, my must-sit quarterbacks are Baker versus Kansas City. I know he churned up points, but this is Monday night. The Kansas City defense is fantastic. They already saw now what Baker's going to try to do in the absence of those receivers with the checkdowns. So guess what they're going to be coming after? I mean, they're not stupid. They have an extra day to scheme for it. This is very bad. Sit Baker. I'm going to say sit Tua versus Buffalo because they're, again, he isn't quite there yet, and they're out in the cold. They're in Buffalo. He never plays well up there. Sit him. And I'm going to say sit Herbert at the Browns because, again, and I'm saying it because the Browns defense is a great defense with nothing to play for. Now they have something to play for. The wake-up call, the stimulant. They got a shot of cocaine. They did a big fat rail of Baltimore cocaine last week, and I think they back, baby. I love this.
Tastes like crab cakes.
Give me that. Give me that box.
Oh,
yeah, I'm losing.
I lost you.
I'm back. Sorry, okay. So so I was saying Sid Herbert versus the Browns. I know a lot of guys. He's a popular pickup this week because he turned out almost 30 points last week. But
Because it seems like he's getting healthier and like he's coming back and he's finding
he's getting his
lad
chemistry
McConkey.
He's getting his chemistry with his receivers, and the
Yes.
McConkey thing is happening, and I think that's the big difference. But
which you also called last week, by the way.
Yeah. So, but this week I don't like it. I would sit him versus the Browns, and I also had Stroud versus the Jets. So those are my quarterbacks.
How about your wide receivers? Why don't you kick those off?
Dionte Johnson versus Denver.
Yeah.
Because again, no chemistry yet.
Right.
I think he's a big fat decoy. If you're going to put him in there,
I have Dionte in our Smoking Super Bowls league. I won't play him this week. I don't think anybody's going to start him on that first week. Just because, like, the same reason you didn't start Amari Cooper. I mean, he's only been there for a cup of coffee. You got to wait. Give it a week and see.
Agreed, but much like the Amari Cooper thing, don't be surprised
if he gets in the end zone.
If he lands one big home run to the end zone, do not be. In fact, count on it.
Oh, dang. All right. Well, see, here we are again at odds when I say this is the week to sit Khalil Shakir.
Because of the Denver matchup.
Because of the Miami matchup.
Oh, sorry, Miami, yes.
Because Miami is actually third best versus wide receivers. Their defense is good. Shakir is the number one guy. I know Coleman's coming up, and Cooper is sort of just, I don't know yet, So, and Kincaid has really not been a factor at all. I mean, not
really.
Not what we expected. It's not even close to what we thought. So
it's like 1 or 2 receptions a game.
Right. And it's to me, that's a little crazy because he was like the one other guy that was there last year with him. So I don't understand that, but I will say beware, at least if not sit, beware of Khalil Shakir this week. I don't think he's going to have a lot of opportunities. I think he's going to be blanketed, and he's kind of small. So, I know it doesn't stop him in the past, but I think that versus Miami, they're gonna shut him down.
Let's move on to running backs. I only have one must sit, and it's Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams versus Baltimore. All those running backs, McLaughlin, all of them, they are not gonna be. If anything, Nix is, and this is why you have him to start. I have him as a flyer because he's going to have to throw the ball. If they're going to do anything, they're going to have to throw the ball. And
that's why I kind of like McLaughlin a little bit because he's the pass catching running back.
Right. But so maybe a little bit. Yeah. But Javonte Williams is a must sit.
Yep. I've got both Bigsby, ETN, that whole combination. Sit those guys. Philadelphia's run defense has gotten a lot better. They've really improved. Philly and Washington's defenses have been getting better and better and better each week.
Absolutely.
And I would be aware. I wouldn't want any piece of it. Number one, I don't know if ETN's going to play. And if he does, is he healthy? And even if he is, he's still going to be sharing with Bigsby. Same with Bigsby. The committee is going to not be good for you for fantasy. And then J.K. Dobbins really fallen off. He's really come down. And I would sit him versus Cleveland.
I would say that I think you should sit it versus Cleveland as well, even though if you need a running back, you can't. But a lot of his fall off, because I have him on a team and I watch him closely. A lot of it, well, I still want to trade him. I'll trade him.
I know.
But a lot of it has to do with the matchups. I mean, they've played great running defensive teams. And it's, if you look at it, it's like when they played teams that weren't great running defensive teams, he did amazing. Then when they played teams that were great,
it's also him doing what he does. He starts like a house on fire, and then his power bar goes down, and then he gets hurt, and then he's out. I mean, so far he's outlasted. What was our over under on week 1? I think you said week 3. You could have said
something like Right? Usually gets injured really early. Yeah.
So I mean, he's already gone way over. But you can see he's decreasing. And this is just what happens. I've never seen him play a full season. I don't know if maybe his rookie year, maybe. But I don't remember.
I don't even think his rookie year.
I don't think he did. And I think he's just not conditioned for a full season because he's never done it before. So, he's already going down and the matchup sucks. So I would stay away from I would sit Dobbins. How about your tight ends? I've got a couple that I think people are going to be like, wow, but sit them.
I don't have any sits on the tight ends. Any must sits? I don't have any must sits.
I've got two. I try to give two of each on everything if I can, if it's at all possible. This week, sit Tucker Kraft. I've always been saying I've been a big champion of his. Saying, hey, he's going to be the new number one. This week, you got to sit him. Okay,
but you can't.
You got to.
You can't. I mean, that's the thing about must sitting. You can't, because most of these guys, there's no other option. Most guys don't. I mean, I have
Hunter
a rare
Henry.
Team. I have
Colby
a rare
Parkinson.
team. You think? I don't think those guys are going to have any chance of doing any better than Tyler Kraft. I would absolutely stick with Tyler Kraft.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Maybe Hunter Henry. Maybe Hunter Henry. He could have one of those weeks because of the matchup.
I think both those guys could do better. And even you said Troutman. I mean,
I like Troutman. Yeah,
I would sit him versus Detroit.
Okay.
Detroit is number one against
number one. Yeah,
number one. So I mean, it's just, and it's a division.
I know it's just to say must start about any relevant tight end must sit about any relevant tight end.
Well, that's why I do it. That's why I'm doing it, because
I can't damn near impossible.
Well, what if I say you must sit?
I would say scary, be wary, but I don't know that you could, because again, they're just the options are just so limited.
Gotta sit him. I'm warning you to sit him. You must sit him. You must look somewhere else.
Look for Troutman. Go find Troutman. Troutman's out there, baby.
Go get him, guys.
Go reel in that
trout, baby. Yeah, reel in that trout. Let's go.
Gotta get
swim upstream this week with the Trout Man. And then, Zach Ertz is another guy who's super relevant. I mean, he hasn't been great, but he's people are starting him. I think you have to sit him this week. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Not only is it a tough matchup, but I do think finally the rookie tight end, Ben Sennett, is starting to sort of show himself.
Take over a little bit.
And I think, you knew Ertz was never going to be like the long-term answer, right, for anything.
Yeah.
But I think we're starting to see the torch being passed. So I would beware and sit completely. I mean, they're the third best versus the tight ends. So I would sit Zach Ertz and probably Ben Sennett as well, to be honest.
Well, there you go. All right. Moving on to scary, be wary. It is Halloween week. Very scary. Let's get into it. For me, for me, scary, be wary is everybody on Green Bay because of the Jordan Love situation. Again, I'm not saying sit them. I love the opportunity, but because I think it'll be a high scoring game if Love plays, and I'm expecting him to play, but it's scary, be wary because of, and even if he does play, how long does he play?
Will he play? It's a groin.
It's a groin. Does he re-aggravate the groin and go right back on it? So, it'd almost be better if they went with Malik Willis right out the gate and just were like, he's sitting this week. Because don't they have the bye week coming up in 10? I think they do.
I think so. Almost half the league is off in week 10.
Right. So I think if that happens, then I would expect to see Malik Willis, which just really makes everything scary, be wary on the Green Bay side of the ball. My other blanket scary, be wary is the Chargers at Cleveland. Again, Cleveland is a revived team after that win against Baltimore. They're feeling themselves. They love Jameis Winston. The defense is playing with energy again. And you're taking the Chargers all the way across country and putting them outdoors in the cold. Scary, be wary for everyone on the Chargers side of the ball.
Well, you're making sense. So these are guys you're going to start. It's impossible to sit these two quarterbacks, but beware of both Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Both of them have difficult matchups. And we just saw what Cleveland did to Lamar. Denver sees that and they're like, we could do that. We could do what Cleveland did. And I think they will, to be quite honest.
They're an incredible defense. They're the number one defense.
They're awesome. They really are. They always have been solid. It's just that they've had quarterback.
No offense.
Yeah. So those are my two quarterbacks. Yeah.
My quarterback is Jaden Daniels. versus the New York Giants. This Giant, first of all, division game.
Right.
We've been talking about this a lot. These division games, I don't care what it looks like on paper. That doesn't matter. It's going to be with a different energy, a different knowledge of each other. And the Giants defense, particularly the pass rush, has been basically fire this season.
It's so good. It's been very
good. That one guy, the number 97, I forgot his name, up the middle.
Dexter McCluskey.
Isn't
that right? Isn't that his name, I think?
Not McCluskey.
Alexa, who is number 97 on the New York Giants?
Dexter Lawrence,
Dexter Lawrence.
I was going to say, I knew the Dexter part was right, and McCluskey was wrong. Dexter Lawrence. This guy is a legit...
Alexa, stop.
A legit monster.
He's crazy. Have you seen his Chunky Soup commercial?
And he's so fast.
It's not normal.
It's like, not watching that much move. Like, I mean, he's
got to be 300, right?
Impressed. Mario, very impressed. Very impressed with the Dexter Lawrence. The way he moved the body. He reminds me of Mario in younger days with the Mario Kart. And okay, so, yeah. And so, I think Jane Daniels, and again, Jane Daniels is hurt. And Dexter Lawrence is going to try to hurt him.
He's going to succeed.
So while you're absolutely starting him, scary be wary.
Well, how about running backs?
I got one.
I wonder
Nick
if it's
Chubb.
Oh, well, yes, of course. Yes. I think that one is almost a given. He's still coming back from his injury.
Which you thought he would just come back and look all number one. I said, I don't know. You don't just come back.
I didn't say that. I said I wouldn't be surprised if he did because he is such a beast. But I think by the end of this season,
sure, and that's what I'm saying. This is a team that's getting revitalized. That's bringing these pieces back together, especially now with Jameis Winston. They feel like. Yes. They at least have a chance. And I feel like the defense is now like, oh my God, we have something to play for. But Chubb versus the Chargers, who have a very good defense.
Yes.
Chubb, I would scary be wary. If not, he might even be borderline must sit.
Yeah, I've got a couple of bewares, and I'm not going to tell you to beware of a garbage person. You're always aware to be wary of that. But beware of Josh Jacobs and Breece Hall this week. These are great running backs. But their matchups are bad. And the weather is going to be bad. And that can work in your favor sometimes if you're the home team, but it's going to be bad if it's not. And I don't know. I've seen Breece has been really weird this year. He's been very hit or miss, and a lot more miss than hit, to be quite honest.
It's very true, sadly. Very, very
I know.
It
makes me sad. He was my keeper. And it makes me sad. And Jacobs has had a year that I never thought that he could have. I thought I thought it was dumb that Green Bay did what they did to even go to get him. And he's been freaking awesome. And I admit I was absolutely wrong about Josh Jacobs, and he's very, very good. But playing against Detroit, and I think he's a little banged up anyway. So I think
Detroit isn't like number 2 against the run. I think Kansas City's number 1 and Detroit.
They are second best. That's correct. Yep. They are second best against the run. You just don't. I just beware. You're going to play them. These are guys you're all going to play. You're going to play.
Yeah, you got to play them. Exactly. You're going to put them in the lineup, but just scary me well. All right. Do you have any others?
No, I've got 2 of each, on all these. On all the bewares.
Oh, okay. We'll continue then because I'm ready to move on.
So I already told you my wide receivers to beware of are the ones that you're saying you must start. I say beware Zay Flowers and beware Jamarr Chase. They've got tough matchups. They've got tough situations. I'm not saying you're going to sit them because you're not. You never sit these guys. I mean, maybe you sit Zay, but you never sit Jamarr Chase. But beware. I just have a bad feeling for him this week. And for the tight ends, these guys are guys that have been just, you started them every week. Well, we said Dalton Kincaid hasn't been great. I would definitely beware of him and beware of Evan Ingram this week, even though he's getting all these targets and he's really good. His matchup is crazy. The third best versus tight ends is Philly. So be aware, be aware of that, and beware of that, because it's not great for him. I've got defenses, but we won't talk about them. Let's go straight to the sleepers and flyers.
Let's go to sleepers. And my number one sleeper is someone you are calling a must start. We're on the same page about this. I'm not as confident as you, but I like Bo Nix versus versus the Ravens. And it's because, again, yes, they're going to shut down that run game. He's going to have to throw the ball. I like it. For another, one of the other players I have here is of course, Courtland Sutton, his number one wide receiver. These are the guys that are going to have to produce. And with that defense, they'll have the opportunities to do so. So for me, take a flyer on Bo Nix. You call him a must start. I'm saying he's a flyer.
Yeah, and it's not just about his passing. I mean, the kid is running. He's got great rushing yards. I think he is a must start in this game. Take a flyer, take a sleeper on Joe Flacco. He's back. He's been throwing about 300 yards per game when he's there, which is higher than almost all the regular starting quarterbacks. I don't think Mahomes has had one 300-yard game yet.
No, he hasn't.
So that's nuts to think about that. So I would say take a flyer on Flacco.
I like that. Listen, you said you called Jameis Winston a must start, and I laughed in your face.
And I had the last laugh, baby.
Boy, you did, buddy. He showed up. I give it to you on that one. You fucking nailed that. If I'd had the time to make it nailed or failed, that would have been right there at the top.
Thank you.
Any more quarterbacks?
Nope, those are my two.
All right, moving on to, for me, wide receivers. Again, I mentioned one already, Courtland Sutton versus Baltimore. Again, they can be attacked through the air. He's the clear wide receiver one for Denver. I like him this week. And you hated him, but I like Keenan Allen as a flyer this week, and DJ Moore versus Arizona.
I think DJ's a little banged up as well, so that might help. But Keenan's always a little banged up, so it's really hard to say what's what over there. And I don't know. I don't know.
Again, flyer, Keenan Allen, that's the guy I like in this one.
All right, well, I've got two wide receivers, and because Courtland Sutton is the number one, I decided to go with Troy Franklin instead as the flyer over there. It was going to be
that's a true flyer. That is a true flyer. Yeah,
because Courtland Sutton. I mean, if you're going to take a wide receiver on Denver, it's going to be him. But if you want to take a flyer, I would take Troy or maybe even Marvin Mims, and then Jalen Tolbert. Take a flyer on Jalen Tolbert this week. He's really
that is a flyer and a half.
Yeah, Atlanta, their defense has fallen off a bit. It was started very strong, and it's starting to come apart. And, there's still no Cooks. Tolbert has been getting more and more action. Why not give him a chance? I'd say take a flyer. DFS, he's probably less than $4,000. It's a good one to plug in there because, Dak's going to be throwing. They can't run it. So, take a flyer on Tolbert.
All right. I like it. Running back, do you have any flyer running backs?
Of course. I've got Tyler Algier versus Dallas.
I like it. Okay.
Right?
Good call.
Forget it. Like Bijan's gonna do his thing, but Tyler Algier is the guy who we can't stop. The way he does, like he reminds me of a
power runner. He's a power runner.
He reminds me of like Tyrone Tracy. Like that guy, we would not be able to stop him. We can't stop those guys. These power backs, we can't stop. We can't stop those. He's going to be much better.
You know who he reminds me of, and and he doesn't get enough opportunity to truly deserve the comp, but his running style honestly reminds me of Earl Campbell.
Wow, that is one of the best compliments you could ever give a running back. That is, and I need to think about it. But I can see where you're coming from.
Because it's a strange mix of just power and shiftiness.
And shiftiness. Yeah, and he's got some speed. He's got some speed,
but that's when he gets loose. When he gets loose, you realize that. And I just tell you, the way he runs,
Earl Campbell.
It reminds me of the great Earl. I'm not saying he is Earl. He doesn't have the opportunities to be Earl Campbell. But football's changed. It's more about the receptions and the versatility and things like that. So it's a different game now.
He's a dying breed. He's a dying breed, and it's
which is why he's the RB2.
Correct. He'll be the RB1 somewhere next year.
Right. If somewhere else or in a different era, he would be by far and wide the RB1 with that power football run game. I'm just saying it reminds me of it. We don't see it that much. We don't see it that much anymore. Yeah. And Derrick Henry isn't like that at all. It's a different type of power run game.
Correct. No one's like Derrick. I mean,
one's like, his is more of like a Dickerson style, straight up and down when he gets going.
Knees just pumping.
Oh, power, and you just can't. It's more reminiscent of Dickerson.
Decisions when they see Derrick Henry coming,
without
and they
question.
say, right this way, sir." Yeah. Oh no, I missed you. But he's like, "Oh, you're going to do that? I'm going to grab you by the face and throw you on the ground. Then, if you do that,
that's my favorite. That's his stiff arms. Remember when Emmett used to stiff arm everybody? He would just punch him in the fucking face.
Right in the face. It's so
right fun. In the grill. Just right in the grill. Just jam him.
So Tyler Algier is a flyer, and I think this, I don't know if this would count. Do you think I've got Mostert as a flyer, because I think Achan's going to be amazeballs. But I think Mostert's going to be super active as well. I think he's going to be the one, like we already saw last week. For some reason, even though he's the one that they both are always getting hurt, but they keep throwing in Mostert at the goal line. Like Achan does all the heavy lifting, and then they give Mostert the touchdown. So, take a flyer on Mostert. He's probably about 1,500 less than Achan.
And the thing about Mostert is he's tough to start because he's not getting the touches that Achan's getting. But then when you don't start him, he scores 2 touchdowns. Which is why I wouldn't start him this week, because you missed last week, and I doubt you're going to see that again. But I could see where you would want to take a flyer on him. He might still grab one.
And now for tight end flyers, these are always my favorite because they're usually just so ridiculous. Like, here we go. We're going to start right off the bat with Foster Moreau. Let's take a flyer. Let's take a flyer with Foster Moreau versus Carolina, because, hey, Carolina.
Versus Carolina. No, I can't argue. I can't argue.
How about Lucas Krull? Can I interest you in Lucas Krull? Bo Nix will be throwing the ball to him versus the Ravens. And remember the Ravens?
Terrible against tight ends.
You're thinking Troutman. Right,
Troutman.
Which I get. But so that's why I'm saying let's take a flyer on Krull. He might be the guy.
Well, because I have Troutman as a must start. So
okay. Well, I would take a flyer on Krull.
Which would make him a flyer. Absolutely.
And I'll leave the defenses alone.
Okay,
you could. All right, you know what? You could.
Two defenses that I've been talking about. Cleveland defense versus the Chargers. I know Chargers are playing well, getting better, extremely well coached. Yep. But the Cleveland defense has been absolutely, I think they're coming back to life, and they're out there on everybody's waiver wire. You go grab them right now. I'm telling you, you will have one of the few plug-and-play defenses for the remainder of the season. I really like where they're at right now. And then my other one is the Rams defense.
I have them down.